What's up guys, Woody here, back with another Gwent video, and this time we're kind of carrying on with the beginner video I made last time where I spoke about 5 cards from each faction and 5 general cards that I would recommend crafting first if you're a new player. We're kind of carrying it on in our kind of unofficial beginners series, should I say. And today we're just going to look at 10 tips. 10 tips that new players, or maybe even players that have been playing for 50, 100 hours, didn't know this could happen in the game. 10 tips that I would pass on to any new player. If a friend was getting into the game, these are tips I'd say, hey, yep, you definitely want to be checking this out or this here. Okay, some are going to be more obscure than others. Some are going to be more situational than others. Some are going to be very vast and can be used in almost any deck as well. So we're going to jump through those. Apologies if I look half asleep, guys. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning over here. I'm getting this done before I actually go to work. So yeah, apologies if you're like, his eyes really, is he squinting? No, I'm just, it's just 6 o'clock in the morning and I've just woke up. So, yes, let's jump into 10 tips. And I'm going to apologise quickly now. There's no gameplay video here, I'm afraid. I was going to record something, I was going to do it after tonight's stream and record my gameplay from stream. But then I was like, I've got to go for all of it. I'm going to be honest, I just didn't have time. I like being completely honest. I didn't have time to go through and get every bit of gameplay for each situation, but I'll go through the cards and hopefully I'll do a good enough job of explaining it. Like I said, this is mostly built at new players, but if you're a seasoned veteran of Gwent, then maybe stick around. Maybe you might learn something. I doubt you will, because I've learned most of this stuff from better players or playing better players. So yeah, let's jump into the tips. And the first tip is one that it took me a long time to realise this, is passing on even. Now, what I mean passing when you're losing on even. Now, as you know, both start with 10 cards in hand. If you lose toss, so for example, you play first, you can easily get caught up. Okay, so if you're getting caught constantly if they're out tempoing you, and you end up having 3 cards left in hand, they have 3 cards left in hand, but you're 7 points behind, you're going to have to pass. But that unfortunately means that they're going to normally dry pass round 2. Going into round 3, they're going to have a 2-card advantage, which is huge. Like, there's not many decks that can keep up or catch up with a 2-card advantage. So what I would recommend, not what I recommend, one thing you should keep into or take note of is you can actually pass on even when you're losing, but not past round 5. Round 5 is about the best time to do it, actually. Obviously, you can do it on round 5. Obviously, you can do it on turn 7, so you have turn 3, 7 cards left in hand, or you can do it when you have 6 cards left in hand. But the reason 5 is best to do it when you have 5 cards left in hand is because when you redraw for round 2, you'll both be on 8. They play first. Most decks, definitely most Skellige decks, most Squirtle decks, most Northern Realm decks, some Skellige decks, monsters are a little bit different. But most of them are going to play 1 card and pass. They're going to want last play. And if they go further, they might try and bleed you down to about 5 cards and then pass. But if you can keep up with the tempo, then that's excellent. But most of them will play 1 card and pass, meaning that actually you don't lose the card advantage, and you're forcing them to kind of make the decision: do I play 1 card or do I bleed out? So yeah, passing round 1 with 5 cards left in hand is actually not a bad play. If you're even on 5 with 5 cards left in hand each, and you think, there is no way I can catch this, or if it's risky, maybe playing a Uni or Cairo to go 2 points ahead, that's a bad play. You're then going to go even on 4, even on 3, even on 2, as in cards left in hand, and you're going to end up finding yourself losing card advantage. Hold on to these Unis and Cairos for later game, maybe when you get the pair in, and pass when you're losing, but on 5 cards in hand each. It's really not a bad play. Keep that in mind, because when I first started playing, I was like, I cannot pass on even. Oh my god, I'm going to lose 5 cards left in hand. It's perfectly fine, and it can actually turn out to be beneficial to you, because you're not going to lose card advantage. Tip 2, and this is one that took me a long time, and I'm still learning to do because I've played a lot of CCGs, and it's just a bad habit. Read the board, not the opponent's hand. So by that I mean, as you learn the game more, and you learn the names of the cards more, and you learn what the cards do, and you learn key combos, and you watch streams, and you learn meta shifts, it's so easy to go, oh, okay, these guys are playing an ice deck. They've got 1 card left in hand. They haven't played their BDM yet, so they're going to be playing BDM. I can't boost this card. all of a sudden you don't boost a card, you play it somewhere else. They don't play BDM, you lose the game. So try not to guess or read what's in the hand. Yes, there are certain times when that's key, and especially when you get into the lower ranks. As you get further into the game, you'll naturally understand kind of, okay, they're setting up for a Yerd and they're setting up for something, okay? You can pretty much work out what's in their hand. But definitely when you're new to the game, and even sometimes in the lower ranks, read what is on the board. If they play a card that say you got Union Cairo in hand, they play a card that's 5 costs, and you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure they've got another big engine in their hand. I'm going to hold on to my Cairo and Uni so I can clear the other engine. But then let's say that this card starts getting out of control. Then you decide to clear it too late. Play the board. If that card gets played and you think, okay, I should clear it. Okay? There's a chance they don't have the other card in hand. They can be playing lots of mind games with you. So many games are won. I see games won on stream because streamers are anticipating what's in the hand. They're trying to play to the opponent's hand, not what they've played on the board. And when you lose like that, it sucks because it's your fault. You did not play the board. So trust me when I say play the board. If there's a card on the board you want to clear, clear it. If there's a card on the board you want to lock, which will go on to my next point, then lock it. Okay, don't try and hold out for other cards. If you feel like that one can be a danger, do it right there. Play what's on the board because that is the definite. Whatever is in the hand is a maybe. You don't know if it's in their hand. You don't know their deck. That is honestly one of the best bits of advice I can give anybody. Play the board. Okay, guys? Yeah, that's point 2. Tip number 3. Talking about locks is know your lock targets. Now, you all know when there's engines on the board. You all know when there's cards that come out of order that we want to lock. That's fine. But I would say there are 2 definite lock targets in Gwent at the moment. Potentially 3. The other one's kind of dipped off at the moment. We'll go to that in a minute. Your first one, is, if you guys don't know, and you're going to wonder why these are situational, is Roach. Okay, Roach, if you don't know, whenever you play a gold card, summon this unit from your deck to a random allied row. The reason Roach is a lock target, on his own, no. In a Nilfgaard deck, yes. If they're playing Nilfgaard and they play Roach, lock Roach. Nilfgaard run, the only 2 engines Nilfgaard run are Nautical Sergeant and Magni Division. Magni Division ticks by 1 for every time it's on a row on its own at the end of the turn, and Nautical Sergeant ticks up by 1 every time they play a deploy ability card. Now, yes, they can go up, but also if you're running Yerden or if you're playing Nilfgaard yourself and running Peter, then they can be reset targets. Okay, so they can ramp up a little bit, but they can be reset targets. The reason you want to lock Roaches for Nilfgaard, and we'll talk about combos later, is they can play a Sire round 3, and then they'll put Roach from the drop area back into the deck, and then Roach come back out. It's a 9-point play. Locking Roach not only stops 9-point play, it only makes it a 6-point play. More importantly, it messes with their kind of feng shui. It messes with their organisation. It messes with how they plan to play the game. They had a Sire in hand, they planned to play a Sire round 3, bring Roach out. They know in their head that's 9 points. You lock Roach all of a sudden, you get 2 outcomes. Either they don't realise it doesn't work when Roach is locked, or they forget Roach is locked, play a Sire, then go in and go, oh shit, Roach didn't come out, you saved 3 points. Or you completely mess with their head and they go, okay, do I mulligan a Sire? Do I get rid of a Sire? What do I do with a Sire? Do I keep a Sire? I don't know what to do. And you start getting them to doubt what they do with a Sire, which is brilliant. You're putting them on the back foot. You're now making them to think about decisions about a card that is coming in 2 rounds' time. So locking Roach can be a very good play. The next card that you want to be looking at locking is a Skellige card. Now, you've all probably seen her, Keris. Now, if you don't know what Keris does, is if this unit is in your graveyard, summon it to a random allied row whenever you play a unit from your graveyard. Now, if you don't know, Skellige have 4 ways of playing cards from the graveyard. They have Freya's Blessing, which can play any bronze from the graveyard. The one that summons any warrior from the graveyard, I can't remember what it's called now. Or if they're playing Ice, they can use Ice's leader ability. Normally, they'll drop Darren round 1, Keris goes to graveyard, and they'll get 2 plays out of Keris. They'll play Freya's Blessing round 1 to get Keris on the board, and they'll play Freya's Blessing or an ability round 3 to get Keris on the board. Again, 8 points over 2 rounds is pretty big. Now, when Keris comes out round 1, if you lock her, that's it. Keris cannot come back out round 3. No matter how many times I play a Freya's Blessing and the ability, she will not come back out. They need to unlock her to get her back out, okay? Again, you might only think, oh, we're only stopping 4 points, but you're messing with that deck's organisation. You're messing with what they want to do there. All of a sudden, playing deck units from the graveyard isn't as powerful as it was. All of a sudden, they don't get that 4-point tempo. All of a sudden, they have to start thinking, what card do I play now? I need to get value out of this Freya's Blessing, otherwise I'm not getting the value I was getting before. So Keris is a card I would definitely lock. If you have one lock target in your deck and you're playing Skellige, the ships that ping themselves by one and then ping the opponents by one are annoying because they set up blood first. But in the long run, I would probably prefer to lock Keris personally. Okay. Now the last one, you don't see him played much like this anymore, and that is Mordvarg. Now Mordvarg, in case you don't know, if this unit moves to the graveyard during the round, summon it to the melee row and give it doomed. Now that can pop on the melee row two ways. Either most players will play it with a discard card, so they'll have it in hand or in deck. They'll play a card that discards Mordvarg, and then because it's gone to the graveyard, it pops onto the melee row. Now that's fine. If that's the case, you can clear Mordvarg, he's gone. The issue comes is when they play Mordvarg from hand. Now I learnt this the hard way several times. They play Mordvarg from hand, you cleared Mordvarg, he's gone to the graveyard, but because his ability hasn't popped yet, he pops back to melee row. You've completely wasted your resources in trying to clear Mordvarg. So if they play it from hand, he's not a bad target to lock. Like I said, Skellige don't have tons of lock targets. If you're running something like Nilfgaard and you have 3, maybe 4 locks in your deck, this is not a bad target to lock. If they play it from hand, you can lock it. Then if it does ever get cleared because you forget that he was played from hand, he doesn't pop back. Now, this is a lot less prominent than the previous mentioned cards, than Keris and Roach. But be aware, if he plays it from the hand, or if they play it from the hand, then be aware he will pop back out, so it's not a bad lock target. Other lock targets, I'm not going to go through all of them, because anything with Order or an Engine or Death Wish, they're pretty good lock targets. You're shutting down a engine or a mini engine from that deck. Next up, tip 4, trying to get my words right there, is one that took me a long while to realise and learn, and that is based around witches. And this tip is know when to run witches. Now, everyone knows what witches do. You play one of them, it pulls the other 2 out of the deck. Now, on paper, they cost 21 provisions for all 3, and they give you 9 power, which is terrible. It's dreadful. Like, for value, absolutely awful. However, they are very good in some decks. Now, what I mean by knowing when to run witches is, in case you don't know, there's such a thing, because again, apologies if you do know this, but this is built at new players, there's such a thing as thinning. Thinning is effectively when you're playing cards that will reduce your deck size. They'll get cards out your deck. They'll pull cards from your deck, meaning your deck size is smaller. For example, if a deck's running with no thinning, the end of round 1, they have 15 cards left in deck. They draw 3 for round 2, they have 12 cards. Your 2 mulligans, round 2, have got to go through 12 cards to find 2 cards that you want. You run witches with Roach, so for example, which now means you're spending 30 provisions to get 12 points. You run witches with Roach, you play that round 1. All of a sudden, your deck is now 12 cards. You draw 3 for round 2. Your mulligans are going through 9 cards, not 12, to find 2. You have more probability, a higher percentage of finding the card you want. Anyone played against Skellige, you'll know Skellige 90% of the time get through the whole deck. They don't need to worry too much about it, and that's partly because they will run witches. Normally, not always, but they normally run witches to help thin. So if you're running a deck that is struggling to find your key cards, you have 2 options. I said 3 then. You have 2 options. You can run Royal Decree, which gives you 50% more chance to find, or 100% more chance to find those cards, because you can play Royal Decree, choose any card from deck. The issue with that is you can only choose 1. Or you can play something like Witches with Roach, and that will all of a sudden get 4 cards out your deck by playing 1. Meaning that those mulligans, especially going into round 3, you're normally only fishing through anywhere between 4 and 6 cards to find 2 cards you want. Your probability is a lot higher in finding cards. So witches aren't the best card for value. They're not as good as they used to be for tempo. They can still get numbers on the board early game, which can be intimidating and can help you push around on even. But they're better for thinning. And bear that in mind when you're deck building. If you're struggling to find cards, don't be afraid to throw witches in there. Even try and throw them in there. Do I find cards more consistently now? Shoop decks, for example, always run witches because they need to find shoop. They get witches out, that's 4 less cards they need to rummage through to find shoop. So yeah, but know when to put witches in. Most monster decks, say most, 90 80% of monster decks won't run witches because they have so many other archetype cards they need to put in their deck. But just know in your head when witches are a good idea and when witches are going to lose you value. Next up, we're looking at something a little bit different. And now I'm going to use one card as an example. And this is very situational. I've spelled his name wrong. SH. I'm just going to go find him. That's why, I think, because... there you go. SC. I'm sure it's SC. There he is. Skiru. Okay. I say his name wrong. Weird, I know. Skihiru. I'm just going to stick with Skiru. Now, the next card, this next one isn't just on this card. There are other cards it can go to, but we're going to use this as an example because I've got something happened the other day in a game. And that is that don't be afraid of damaging your own cards. Now, you might be looking at me thinking, are you mental? It's about me putting numbers on the board. Yes. But, for example, and this is what happened to me the other day. I was playing an Ethny deck. I was about 14 points ahead in round 3. And all of a sudden I started to notice that they were using the planet archers and other setups to ping my units to 5. Which made me instantly go, okay, they're going to call to the forest when their cards are going to bring Skirrel out for 5. And I'm going to lose the game. So I made a bold decision of lacerating my front row. It done 8 damage to myself. And it pulled my 3 5-cost cards down to 3. All of a sudden, their Skiru was useless. They had no way of playing Skiru. They couldn't do anything with Skiru. And I actually went on to win the game. Now, that is a very one-off situation. But there are situations where Scorch, Skiru, other cards can come out and don't. If you're playing Death Wish, the Imperial Manticore that destroys the lowest unit, maybe there's one card you want to keep on the board. Maybe pinging one of your cards by 1 to mean that's the card that gets Death Wish rather than your main engine isn't a bad idea. But it's an alien. I suppose it's alien to do in Gwent to ping your own cards or damage your own cards. I'm not saying throw a uni like a Cairo with uni buff on your own card to do 8 damage. Just be mindful that certain decks, and this will come as you learn the game more, certain decks will run cards that will rely on some cards being at certain powers. If you can ping your cards around that, and if you can win games by sometimes doing 2, 4, 5, 6 amounts of damage to your own cards, can actually end up winning you the game. Sounds crazy, I know, and it's very situational. This will not happen every game, probably won't even happen every 10 games, but when it does happen and you win the game from it, it feels very, very good. So be aware that you can ping your own cards, and be aware that actually sometimes it's not a bad decision to ping your own cards. Next up, we're going to go through 3 staple combos. So tip 6 is going to be looking at 3 staple combos. We already kind of looked at these. And the first one is one I spoke about a minute ago, and that is a Sire. So it is morning. I'm just going to have a bit of coffee. Sorry, guys. So a Sire, in case you don't know, is on the melee row, shuffle a card from your opponent's graveyard into the deck. From the ranged row, shuffle a card from your graveyard into your deck. The way this works is 90% of the time, you'll play it on range row. You'll then choose Roach, who is played normally round 3. And this is the key point. If you're going to run a Sire, you need to play a gold card round 1. Otherwise, you don't get the Roach combo. Roach isn't in your graveyard. And then normally round 3, or if you're pushing round 2, you play a Sire. You'll then choose Roach. And because you played a gold card and a Roach is now back in your deck, Roach will come out. So you're playing 8 provisions and you're getting 9 value off a Sire. This can be very versatile. You can be playing tool monsters. You can use this in round 3 to push the 13 boy or the 10 boy back into their deck so they haven't got a consume target. Like it can be a very versatile card, but 90% of the time it's used on Roach. If you're running Nilfgaard, I'd recommend running this combo a lot. If you're forced to play this round 1, it's not the end of the world sometimes. Sometimes you have cards in your graveyard. I've had T-boards that have been cleared by professionals. And I've played this to put that back in the deck. And then I've drawn back into it. Or, for example, I've played Blue Dream round 1. I've played this and I've put Blue Dream back in my deck, and I've managed to draw into Blue Dream again, meaning I've got 2 big plays off Blue Dream in one match, which is huge. It's a very good card. It's a staple card for any Nilfgaard deck, and like I said, it's a very good combo with Roach. Okay, you're getting 1 extra value out of the provisions to power cost. The next one we're looking at, as I mentioned a minute ago, is a kind of double combo. We look at Keris first and Mordvarg. So what you're actually looking at is the card we want to look at is Darren. So the way this is Skellige combo, the way this card works is deploy on the range, move up to, so you haven't got to move all, but up to 3 cards from your deck to your graveyard. Now what you'd normally do is you'd play this first card normally, if you draw it into them round 1, and you'll move Keris across to the graveyard. And so she's now in the graveyard, meaning you play Ice Stability, you play Freya's Blessing. We spoke about this earlier. Then she comes out of the graveyard. Okay, so she's there. That engine's going in your graveyard. We then also, you'll be using another card we spoke about earlier, Mordvarg. Okay, Mordvarg is now sent to the graveyard. He will then pop onto the Melee row, meaning that you just played 8 points off the Darren. Also, most Skellige decks will be running Roach, so you're actually getting 11 points off the Darren play, because Mordvarg and Darren are both gold cards. It's going to whip out Roach as well, okay? It's a huge combo. The Keris isn't always run, but 90% of, I say 90%, probably 100% of Skellige decks I've come across, or 99.9% of Skellige decks come across, run the Darren Mordvarg combo. If they don't run Darren, they run a Mordvarg combo where they'll discard it and Mordvarg will come onto the board. Yeah, very, very powerful. It's a very good way of getting tempo on the board. Ice decks I've played against have ended up, by turn 2, have had like 25 plus points on the board. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, how am I supposed to catch this? This is insane. So yeah, very, very good combo. And the last one we're going to look at is a Scoia'tael combo. And we're looking at, I'm going to say her name wrong now, aren't I? She is Erling, okay? Now, Erling, if on turn end you control 5 or more elf allies, summon this unit from your deck to melee row. So not only is she finning, she's also bringing out firepower. Firepower is pretty big. And getting 5 elves on the board in an elf deck is pretty easy, to be honest. It's not hard to do at all. Now, the reason I want to mention this combo is because that's a pretty basic combo. But what you can do to go further with Erling is there's a card called Call to the Forest, or Call of the Forest, sorry. Call of the Forest allows you to shuffle an ally unit into your deck, then play a different unit with the same primary category from your deck and boost it by 3. Now, primary category means elf. So basically, we go back to Erling, A-E, there she is. She's an elf, meaning that if I play Call of the Forest on Erling, then I can choose any elf card from my deck and play it for free. Now, the reason I'm doing this on Erling over other cards is because Erling's now back in my deck, and as I've played an elf card, because I've chosen elf card in Erling, she will come back out at the end of the turn, meaning Call of the Forest is a completely free play. I'm not losing cards, I'm getting her back out, and I'm getting a card from my deck with a boost of 3. It's a massive play. So many people I play against don't Call of the Forest Erling. They Call of the Forest maybe a 1 cost, which is fine. I get that they want to get rid of 1 cost because they get more power. They don't actually get more power. They lose 0 points. They don't lose 1 point, they lose 0 points if you Call the Forest Erling. Side note, if Erling is locked, it still works. I've done it so many times, I don't know how it works, but I've locked Erling and then they've played Call of the Forest on her and she's still come back out, even when I've locked her. It's a huge combo. Absolutely massive. Do be mindful though, however, if you're doing this with Skiru and you don't have a way of picking Skiru to different levels, Skiru comes out at 5 with Call of the Forest, Erling comes out at 5. Actually, don't worry about that. It's end of turn. So you can call Skiru out. You can ping the Skiru for 5 if you need to, and then Erling comes out. So you can play it on Skiru. She comes out after Skiru goes off. Yeah. So that's my 3 kind of staple combos for different factions I recommend. Learn the combos because also playing against them will help a lot. Now, next tip isn't based around the card. And it's don't be afraid to push round 2. Now, this will come as you know different leaders, okay? As you learn what leaders will be running, kind of what kind of cards you can expect from them. But don't be afraid to push round 2. If you won round 3 and you feel like you've got a very good hand, push round 2. If it doesn't start going well for you, just get out the round. Okay? The worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to get last save, which can be big, but chances are by playing some big cards round 2, by pushing round 2, you're going to force your opponent to play cards that they were expecting to play round 3. The biggest advantage I personally think with push round 2 is actually like a mental advantage, a psychological advantage. You're kind of throwing them off what they're expecting. So many, it's worked against me so many times. It's probably worked against you guys sometimes when you're playing an Ethny deck and you're like, oh, they're going to want last save of round 3, and all of a sudden they've dropped Witches round 2, and I'm like, oh god, that's 9 points. Okay, I need to catch this. And then they've smelt blood and they've played more cards, and I'm like, what? Ethny's not going to be doing this. I'm saving these cards for round 3. And it can really throw me off. Then they pass, and I've had to play a big card I didn't want to play, and it's kind of thrown me off my game plan. That's probably the best advantage with playing or pushing round 2. And don't be afraid, especially as a new player, to experiment with that, okay? Yes, you may lose games pushing round 2, playing cards you shouldn't have, and then realising it wasn't working. But as a new player, you can watch all the streams in the world. But unless you play it yourself, unless you feel for a round 2 push yourself, when do I push, when don't I push, what lead do I push with, what leader don't I push with, you'll never know. So don't be afraid to push round 2. Honestly, I've won many games that I didn't expect to win by pushing round 2. Because normally it's just throwing them off completely. They're like, what? Why is this? Sometimes they get so scared, they'll play like a Uni or Cairo first card to try and get back into card advantage. And then you can be like, wow, actually, I'm going to push further. Because I know you now have the opposite one in hand, and you can push and push and push, and you can bleed very effectively. Okay? So yeah, don't be afraid to push round 2. Tip number 8 is buff damaged cards. Now, we've all seen Yerden. Is it YR? Yeah, YR. So we've all seen Yerden. There are lots of other cards, and we use this as the most common one because he is the most common one run. It restores all units to on a row to their base power. Now, the reason I say buff damaged cards is, let's say, for example, you play T-Ball as Nilfgaard. He comes out at 13. They've played Cairo on T-Ball, so he's done 8 damage with Uni in hand. You then play Uni with Cairo in hand on T-Ball, he goes back up to 13. Now, if they Yerden, he doesn't lose value. Whereas if you play the Unicorn on another card to give it 8 buff, and its power is in green, then when they play Yerden, that value resets. It goes down to its base value. So by buffing cards, yes, it might take them above. For example, you might take a T-Ball from a 13 to a 16. But they play Yerden, you're only losing 3 value on that. You're not losing the 8 value, which I hope that kind of makes sense. So by buffing damaged cards means that if they are running Yerden or any reset cards, actually you're not giving them value. You're not feeding into it, okay? Yerden's ran so much in the moment because so many people run Uni and Cairo. An 8 buff reset makes them 12, so you get 1 point value if you're working it out that way, just off a Uni Cairo buff, which, considering, like I said, 80% of decks running Uni and Cairo, this card 80% of the time gets value, okay? Against monsters, it's devastating. Or against tool monsters, I should say, it's devastating. So yeah, buff damaged cards, and it will shut down stuff like Yerden and other big plays where they're looking at resetting units that have got big buffs on them, okay? Yeah, it's really useful technique. It's a really useful tip. It took me a while to realise, actually, that's probably the best thing to do. But yeah, buff your cards that are damaged, not the ones that aren't damaged. Yeah, that's tip number 8. Tip number 9 is going to be slightly different. It's not really slightly different. It's just not to do with those decks there. It's on your reward book, focus and prioritise on getting the different leaders. Now, I know we all have our favourite factions. Most people who are playing Gwent are Witcher fans. And they've come in here with an attachment to a certain faction, okay? I came in initially with big attachment to monsters. I really liked monsters, so I was playing a lot of monsters, mostly Arrakis Queen and Wooden Spirit. As it's gone on, and as my time with Gwent's gone on, I'm now playing more Nilfgaard, but I know pretty much every leader pretty well, okay? I've played every leader to a certain degree. So, by doing so, I've learnt the game so much more. It's easy to get stuck in your little factions and be like, oh, I love monsters. I'm going to learn monsters completely. Now, that's fine, but even like the ambassadors, even like, for example, Pumpkin, who's the ambassador for Squirtle, doesn't mean he never plays Skellige, never plays Nilfgaard, never plays Northern Realms. No. He knows Squirtle very, very well, but he knows the other factions very, very well as well. That's why he's such a competitive player at the game, because he knows what to expect from these leaders. He knows how their leader abilities work. He knows what they're waiting for to proc the leader ability. He knows what combos they're looking to find. So prioritize your reward points early on leaders, okay? Don't worry about going, if we go into here, don't worry about trying to get all of the scrap and all the chests. Get the leaders. First thing you want to do is get the leaders, okay? Once you've got the leaders, you can play around them. You might not like the leaders. You might only play 5 games with a leader and go, that leader's just not for me. Hey, that's fine. It doesn't matter, okay? Just get the leaders down and get learning the leaders. It's such a good tip I can honestly give you. It probably took me 100 hours to, well, probably about 50 hours, 50 to 60 hours to get the leaders, and then probably about 100 hours overall to get the leaders and play with them and learn them and understand them, okay? It's very good technique to very good tip to learn the leaders. And the final one is a very cheesy tip, so I apologise for that. But the final tip is basically be creative and have fun. Don't be afraid to just make... Okay, don't be afraid to make shit decks, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Don't be... Okay, I'm going to use this tech as a perfect example. I had an idea with throwing the Conjurer with Eredin. The Yennefer the Conjurer, the one that pings the highest unit by 1, or if there's multiple units at the highest, then it pings them both by 1, or all three by 1. Give it like... Basically, I throwing spears in there, shields in there, buffing them up to make the Conjurer come off really powerful. Garrett was in there to kind of stop any big guys going. It helps set up the big plays with Conjurer. This deck is rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. I've played about 5 or 6 games of it, not won a single game of it. Been destroyed every time, okay? This deck is terrible. How do I know it's terrible? I built it, I played it. Okay? Do I know it's going to work in the future? No. But I've learnt so much from making that bad deck that, okay, that didn't work. Conjure and Eredin combo didn't work. That combo didn't work. I'm not going to go try that in any other decks now, okay? The more decks in here are bad than they are good. And I'm not even kidding, okay? Because you have to make bad decks. You have to kind of make the crap decks to find the good decks. So be creative, be confident, be bold, and go, I've never seen people play this card. I'm going to play this card. I want to see how this card works. I'll make a deck around this card. Did I lose? Okay, I've lost a couple of rank points. I've gone down a rank or so maybe. But you've learnt the game more. Rank is all one thing, okay? But learning the game is more important than where your rank is, especially early on when you're starting out, okay? Rank will come naturally as you grow as a player. Deck building doesn't come naturally. Deck building and deck understanding comes from being experimental, playing with decks. And it's probably the best tip I can give any new player. Gwent's meta is a little bit stale at the moment, partly because it's still technically a new game in terms of Gwent 1.0 only released with Homecoming. So the meta is a bit stale at the moment because there aren't tons of cards, and especially when you get rank 5 or below, you kind of run into the same 4 decks over and over and over again. They've got little iterations here and there. And that's understandable. They're meta decks. They're tier 1 decks. People want to push for Pro Ladder. They're going to have to play those decks. They can't really afford to be experimental. That's why I've dropped down rank, is because I've tried to be experimental. I've tried to play around with new archetypes. Especially lower ranks, be experimental. Throw a card in there that shouldn't be in your deck. Does it work? No. Brilliant. Take it out. Try something new. Honestly, it's the best tip I can give to any new player to the game. The best way to learn the game is by making obscure decks. Decks that should never be made. Play them. Okay, you got to remember, if you wasn't expected to make that deck, God, your opponent's going to have absolutely no clue what's coming, okay? So, but be experimental, play around with it. It doesn't work, don't be afraid to throw the card out. But don't throw it out after one game. Play a couple of games with it. Did these combos work? Does this leader work with these cards I've chosen? No, brilliant. Let's change leader. Maybe the deck's fine. Let's change leader. Okay, maybe these cards aren't synergizing with much I want with other cards. Let's get rid of those cards. But be creative. Be experimental, okay? Yes, you can jump into casual matches if you want. Yes, you can jump to practice if you want, okay? It's entirely up to you. I'm more of a fan of jumping into rank because I want to see if a card is running competitively in ranked, basically, okay? So that's why I'll jump into rank even with a weird and wonderful deck. But yeah, that's 10 tips, guys. I know, I'm apologise again now, there's no gameplay. Hopefully it helps. And like I said, these are build up at new players. I'm going to try and do like one video every week, every 10 days for like new players. Obviously, if you're watching this video, there's a chance that in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time, you're not classed as a new player. You're a seasoned veteran, shall we say. You've got, God knows, 300 hours into Gwent over 3 weeks. Kudos to you if you've done that. But anyway, and these videos becoming old for you. That's fine. These videos, I do deck videos as well, and I've got a Death Wish deck coming up that will come up probably in the next couple of days. But these decks are built at people who want to get into Gwent. I feel like Gwent is going to really grow soon, and from streams I've been doing, I've had so many new players jumping in and asking me questions that I'm like, do you know what? I'm inspired to go make some videos to help new players out. I've looked around, there's not tons around, so hopefully these 10 tips will really, really help you. Even if you just look at 2 or 3 of them. If you knew most of them, but actually I didn't know that. Hopefully it will help you win a game, win 2 games, maybe it will help you push up a couple of ranks. If it does, then I'm happy, I've done my job. If it doesn't, I apologise, I haven't done my job, but I enjoy making these videos. So guys, if you do like these videos, then give it a little like. And if you want to keep up to date with more Gwent content, including some new player / beginner videos, including deck videos, reaction videos, I'm meant to do one on lead. I'm actually do one on all 4 leaders. So once all 4 leaders, 5 leaders, 4 or 5 leaders, 5 leaders are announced, I'll then do a big video on going through the leaders, what I expect to do, because I'm going to kind of build decks in the background of what I'm going to add those leaders onto. But yeah, like I said, if you like these videos, guys, please give me a little like, and keep up to date with the Gwent content. Then just subscribe to What's Up Woody. And as I said, I do stream every Monday, Wednesday evening, and then all day, I say all day, from 10 till like 5, 6 in the evening on Sundays. Yep, hopefully you found this deck helpful. Hope you found this video helpful. Apologies, there is no gameplay for it. Hopefully I went through it enough and explained it enough. But yeah, until next time, guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great morning, day, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye, guys.